Spine-chilling footsteps following me in the dark, 15 haunted stories unveiled from Reddit. Jenna's heart raced with each stealthy creak of the floorboards, echoing in the shadowy corridors of her late grandmother's house. There was something undeniably sinister about the flickering light in the kitchen. As she filled her mug with coffee, she dared a glance behind her, a chilling shiver prickling her skin. The shadows seemed to stretch, eager to engulf her. Every night, the footsteps followed her, an ominous rhythm that told her something was watching. In Cedar Grove, the evenings were usually filled with the innocent laughter from yards, where kids tumbled through the grass. But not in Jenna's house. Here, dread lurked in every corner, wrapping her children, Ethan and Mia, in an unseen threat. "Mommy," the whispers again. Mia whined one night, her voice trembling while Ethan clutched his blanket tighter, wide-eyed. Their innocent fears gnawed at Jenna, twisting her already frail nerves. "Those are just shadows, sweetie," she whispered, but her voice wavered. There were reports on the news of missing children, parents were frantic, and panic clawed at Jenna's throat. One evening at the playground, she glanced toward the tidy, red-bricked homes that loomed like silent sentinels, many now boarded up, families vanished under the cover of night. A chilling thought wedged itself in her mind: what if someone was standing in the dark watching, waiting? The school principal, an admired figure, now felt like a ghost in the living light. His eyes held secrets, words caressed with creepy warnings that made Jenna's skin crawl. "You must keep your eyes open, Jenna," he advised one morning, feigning a warm smile, but intent darkened his voice. Every friendly face seemed to hide a lurking darkness. The whispers grew, intertwining with her memories, gnawing at her heart, as she spent restless nights oscillating between dreams and dread. One sleepless night, feeling the weight of shadows pressing in on her, Jenna drove to the dusty town archives, driven by desperation. The atmosphere thickened like fog as she sifted through creaking shelves and yellowed pages, uncovering folklore drenched in misery. Kids had gone missing before. An unseen entity lingering in the shadows, a curse entwined with the town's history. With every revelation, the echoing footsteps grew closer, as if they were taunting her. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Jenna could feel eyes boring into her, shadows creeping closer. She left the archives and stepped into the moonlight, but even the silver glow felt too thin. The footsteps transformed, multiplying around her, each thud quickening her pulse. A mother's instinct hung heavy in her bones. Something waited in the dark, something that showed no mercy. As she navigated Cedar Grove's creaky streets, she stumbled upon the scattered remnants of forgotten houses. With every closed door she passed, Jenna felt secrets hidden within the shadows. What if the truth was even darker than she ever imagined? As she crept closer to the void between safety and horror, she realized the looming truth: the footsteps were not just chasing her, they were tracking her home, drenching her in a chilling grip of icy fear. And in that moment, the air thickened with suspicion. Help had never come for those lost in Cedar Grove. The question hung unspoken: what horror lay waiting for her when she got home? The ride home felt like navigating a labyrinthine nightmare. Jenna's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. Shadows flittered in her peripheral vision, making her jump every time she glanced to the side. The streetlights flickered as if aware of the darkness creeping in on all sides. She breathed in quick gasps, trying to ward off the tightening sensation in her chest. As she parked outside her grandmother's house, dread pooled in her stomach. The creaking wooden porch, once a playful echo of her childhood, now loomed ominously. She urged herself forward, though her feet felt like lead. The whispers she thought she could ignore at the archives followed her home. They echoed around her, sinister and low, as she stepped inside, the old door groaning in protest. Ethan and Mia were already snug in their beds, but a knot of anxiety twisted in her gut. She could hear them, soft breaths in the shared silence, but the unsettling energy in the house was palatable. She flicked on the hallway lights, bringing temporary relief as the bulb buzzed, shimmering against the walls. Shadows bellowed in the corners, but she pressed on, heart hammering. Just a house, she whispered to herself, hoping her voice would drown out the whispering. Yet, the moment she reached the kitchen, the flickering light returned, casting erratic shapes along the tiled floor. Holding her breath, she reached for the switch, but it sparked as she flicked it, sending an angry flicker illuminating the room. Had she really seen it? A shadow darted past the doorway, too quick to catch. "Mommy!" Mia called from her room, her voice laced with that same dread that gnawed at Jenna. "I'm here," she replied, forcing her voice to remain steady. She moved slowly toward the children's room, each step entirely too loud, punctuated by the silence around her. Ethan peered out from under his blanket, wide-eyed and trembling. "Mommy, I heard it, the footsteps." "I know, sweetie. It's just the house settling." "Nothing to worry about," she lied, willing her heart to calm. But that wasn't entirely true. The footsteps thrummed rhythmically in her bones, an echo from every dark corner of Cedar Grove. She could feel the weight of history suffocating her, a history steeped in sorrow, in loss. "You should go to sleep," she whispered, tenderness clawing through her fear. Yet, in the reach of the house, the dread morphed into something tangible. The whispers escalated, indiscernibly merging, wrapping around Jenna like invisible vines. It was close now, whatever it was. She turned, looking toward the hallway, feeling a chill snake up her spine. As she crossed back into the hallway, the air shifted. A dark silhouette awaited her at the end, where the light fell short. It pulsed, vibrating in rhythm with her quickening heartbeat. "Mommy!" Mia whimpered again. "Stay here!" Jenna shouted, panic slicing through her words. She could barely hear herself over the cacophony of whispers swelling around them, rising like a tidal wave. The figure loomed larger, and Jenna felt the dread curl into a fist around her heart. It seemed to draw nearer, an inescapable blackness that threatened to swallow them whole. Adrenaline ignited within her, pushing her to move. She raced back toward the children's room, her breath splintering into panicked gasps. "We need to go. Now!" she yelled, urgency thick in her voice. But as she reached the door, the shadow lunged forward, closing the distance, the whispers boiling over into a thunderous rage. Jenna's heart thundered in response, but there was something about the presence that felt oddly familiar, as if it knew her, calling her name softly as darkness descended. Then it hit her, it was not just a shadow in the night. No, it was something rooted deeper in Cedar Grove, something ancient and terrifying. What had she awakened? And as she pressed her back against the wall, panic threatening to swallow her whole, she wondered, would they make it out alive, or had the house finally reclaimed its lost souls? The shadow collided with the wall, letting out a sound that was a mix of a growl and a whisper, chilling Jenna to the core. She froze there at the threshold of her children's room, adrenaline shredding through her veins. The whispers turned sharper, the ancient voices calling to her, thundering with secrets unspoken, begging to be released. "Mommy!" Mia cried, tears glistening in her wide eyes. Jenna wanted to reassure her, to wrap her arms around her, but her body felt like it was encased in ice. The shadow loomed closer, morphing into something more defined, more grotesque. Pale fingers curled around the doorframe, as if it were readying itself to pull itself into their world completely. "Back away!" she shouted, the command erupting from her throat, desperate and shaky. In that moment, she felt it, the cherished memories she had of the house turning to ash in her mouth. That fleeting sense of safety was eclipsed by a dread that promised no mercy. "Mommy, please," came Ethan's voice, barely a whisper, as he clutched the blanket over his head tightly. The weight of his fear pressed on Jenna like a vice, and she couldn't falter. She took a deep breath, searching for something, anything to build her courage. With shaking hands, Jenna reached for the light, praying it would hold its charge just a moment longer. The bulb flickered back to life, illuminating the room in a harsh brightness. The figure hesitated, almost retreating, but the whispers surged anew, weaving through the air like a sickening fog. They swirled around Jenna, wrapping around her throat, choking her resolve. "Run!" she yelled, her voice breaking. She lunged forward, heart hammering, grabbing both of her children and yanking them from their beds. The warmth of their bodies pressed against her was the only thing holding her together. They stumbled backwards, just as the shadow lunged again, slithering through the room. Jenna kicked the door shut, the impact rattling the frame. It wouldn't last long, she knew that. The veil of protection was thin. They were trapped within the ghosts of the past, entangling history and dark stains on cedar wood. In a panic, Jenna scanned the room, eyes falling on the window, a point of escape. "We have to go," she urged, pulling her kids closer. Their wide eyes darted between her and the door, fear cracking their fragile calm, and all she could think was how desperately she needed to break free. "Mommy!" Ethan clutched her arm, voice trembling, "What if it gets us?" "It won't." She lied through clenched teeth. "Just trust me, okay? We can't let it touch us." Sizing up the window, she felt the ground tremble under her feet, the house vibrating with rage. The raucous whispers transformed into a frantic chant, a melody woven through despair, begging her to acknowledge them. The entities tied to this house were alive, breathing through the very walls, and they wouldn't let the family just walk away. They stepped toward the window, Jenna's heart pounding with dread. She pulled up the old latch, struggling as she felt nails scraping against her spine. Someone was holding her back. The shadows converged, whispering of betrayals left unspoken, bloodlines tangled in grief. "Go!" Catching Ethan's gaze, she pushed him toward the opening, shouting again at Mia, who hesitated, lip quivering. "Jump! You can do it!" Suddenly, the door slammed open. The figure rushed forward, a flood of shadow spilling into the room, its voice howling through the chaos. In that moment of chaos, Jenna let out a cry, her heart pounding so loud it nearly drowned out the whispers of nameless spirits, but it wasn't just a cry of fear, it was a cry of realization. This presence, this malevolence, it was connected to her. The voices were of her lineage, drawn from the very fabric of her being. And as she took a leap through the window, all she could feel was a haunting truth slithering into her mind: what if it wasn't just after them? What if it was after her? As they hit the ground outside, the house groaned, as if in agony. The lingering whispers in the night transformed into a cacophony of rage, spilling through the air as they stumbled forward into the uncertainty of darkness. But the truth loomed above them, pulsating like a heart that would not die. What had she really unleashed? Jenna's breath came in short gasps as they hit the ground, the cool earth beneath them grounding her if only for a moment. Heart racing, she glanced back at the house, its silhouette looming ominously against the moonlit sky. The whispers from within seemed to seep into the night air, a sinister mention of fate and bloodlines. A chill crawled up her spine, and she felt the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes watching, waiting for a chance to rewrite her story. "Mommy, what was that?" Mia asked, her tiny voice quivering against the backdrop of vibrating echoes. The innocence in her tone brought a sharp pang of guilt. How could Jenna protect them when she didn't understand the dark force that had been unleashed? "I don't know, baby," she replied, her throat tight. "But we have to keep running." They scrambled to their feet, Jenna keeping Ethan close as Mia clung to her other hand. Each step felt like they were being pulled back, strings tethered to the house, to the darkness it harbored. The air felt thick, their feet crunched against twigs and gravel, the sound almost lost in the rustling whispers of the trees surrounding them. "Mommy, I can't see!" Ethan cried, tears streaking down his cheeks. The moonlight only cast twisted shadows that danced along the ground. It seemed every bush and tree loomed with intent, as though waiting for something. Jenna dug her nails into Mia's hand to reassure her, but her own anxiety was a serpent coiling tighter around her heart. "Just a little further, we'll find a safe place," Jenna urged, willing herself to stay calm. The words felt hollow, but they had to keep moving. As they broke through the tree line and into the field, moonlight spilled over them, illuminating the landscape. The open space should have offered relief, but instead, it felt exposed, vulnerable. She could still hear it, the whispering, like an insistent wind calling her name. Jenna turned, heart pounding, convinced she could feel the past spilling over them like an avalanche. "Stop. Listen," she commanded. The whispering stopped. A heavy silence wedged itself between them and the house, but it was deceptive. Shadows shifted strangely in the grass, and the chill remained like an uninvited guest. A moment passed before a low, tremulous moan echoed from behind them. They turned slowly. The silhouette of the house was not yet visible, but they could feel it, pulsing. "Mommy," Ethan whimpered, the trust in his eyes splintering. "Don't look back," she whispered fiercely. "We have to keep going." But the sound of footfalls broke the eerie quiet, slow and deliberate, stalking them from some dark corner of their reality. Each step vibrated through the ground, a foreboding reminder that they were not alone. Jenna felt her heart race until it seemed to drown out everything else. "Faster," she urged, pulling the children with her. Grass whipped at their shins as they ran, breath mixing with terror. They powered through the field toward the edge of a neighboring forest, the only sanctuary she could think of. But as they approached, Jenna realized the whispers weren't just a figment. They were following the shadows, the voices, something condemned by time and buried deep within those haunting walls. Suddenly, Mia stumbled, her grip slipping from Jenna's hand. "Help me!" she squealed. Jenna turned, panic flooding her system. The moment of hesitation felt like an eternity. The whispers surged again, spitting words Jenna could barely comprehend, and from the darkness behind the trees, a figure emerged, a grotesque reflection of her worst fears. "Mommy!" Mia's voice became indistinct, almost swallowed by the shadows stretching toward them. Jenna lunged forward, reaching for her daughter, but the darkness twisted like tendrils of smoke curling around Mia's arms, dragging her back. "Mia, no!" Jenna screamed. But as the shadows pulled tighter and the whispers erupted into a roaring howl, something deep inside Jenna shifted. The truth unfolded suddenly, a chilling revelation buried within the chaos. What if Mia wasn't just the child fleeing with her? What if she was part of the past that Jenna couldn't escape? As the darkness enveloped them all, leaving her with a single sobering thought, Jenna realized she might not be strong enough to fight the past she had unleashed. When a scream echoed through the night, she knew they were all inextricably intertwined with the horror encroaching upon them. How could she possibly save them all? Jenna felt herself being yanked back into the suffocating grasp of darkness. The shadows squeezed tighter around Mia, who was still crying out for help. The moonlight flickered, and Jenna could barely see her daughter's frightened face, but she knew time was running out. "Let her go!" Jenna shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of fear. She could feel the ground shift beneath her, the earth seemingly groaning in response to her desperate plea. The woods loomed behind her like agitated sentinels, branches clawing at the air with a purpose, almost as if craving the flesh of the living. In that moment, a new realization coursed through her. She couldn't just run or scream, something had to be done. Drawing a deep breath, Jenna called upon the fragments of her childhood memories that had lain dormant, buried under years of indifferent living. In those stories from her mother, there were names spoken only in hushed tones, rituals long forgotten, and family bloodlines steeped in terror. As if responding to her call, the whispers surged back, more insistent, escalating into a cacophony of dread. Jenna could almost make out their words, swirling around her like a grotesque dance. They lost their softness, gaining substance, boiling into a singular entity. "Come home suddenly," the weight of the unseen pressed down like a heavy blanket. Shadows traced her, pulling at her spirit with ethereal fingers that whispered promises of understanding and power. It was alluring. Jenna felt drawn, like a moth to a flame, trapped in a web of dark allure that promised safety but felt treacherous. "Mia! Fight it!" she cried, fear slipping into a deeper chamber of her heart as she tugged helplessly against the pull. But Mia was fading, her small body wrapped tighter in the clutches of the shadows, her face becoming even more distorted with despair. With every ounce of her strength, Jenna drew closer. Sweat trickled down her brow. "I am your mother. Don't let go." Her voice broke, and in that moment, the last glimmer of innocence in Mia's eyes seemed to dim. A heartbeat echoed within the depths of Jenna's chest, louder than any roar, a flood of terror mixed with a determination born of desperation. What if the past wanted Mia back? Could it take her place? "Mia!" she shouted, battling escalating panic with each step toward her daughter. Jenna's mind raced, searching for an ancient power hidden within her that could sever the bond connecting her child to the malevolence trailing them like a shadow. Suddenly, the screams morphed into laughter, cruel and cutting, slicing through the night air. The darkness skeined around Jenna, forming shapes, each more grotesque than the last, a parade of horrors waiting to ensnare them. She could see faces contorted with malice, eyes glowing with insatiable hunger. "No! Stay away!" she cried, her voice barely audible over the madness. And then, a moment of clarity struck her. The stories weren't meaningless, they held the key. Jenna spun on her heel, a wild hope igniting within her. "I'll do it!" she declared, clutching her throat as the whispers roared around her. But what ritual? What price would she have to pay to save Mia? As the shadows recoiled momentarily at her resolve, Jenna felt strength surge within her. It pierced through the suffocating fog like a beacon, urging her forward. "I want to let you take my child." Suddenly, the grip on Mia loosened, and Jenna lunged, locking her arms around her daughter. But as she did, a vision hit her, enveloping her in a whirlpool of memories. She heard a voice, clear and chilling. The bloodline must be renewed. A rift opened between realms, an echo of the past resonating in the moonlight. Jenna's breath paused, her heart hurling into her throat. What did that mean? What had her family done long before her? With each second, that realization began to shift from abstract to horrifyingly concrete. As footsteps thundered from the house, Jenna held Mia tighter, ready to fight the unseen battle ahead. Would she unlock the secrets or seal their fates forever? The ground trembled beneath them, the trees swayed ominously, and she knew one thing: whatever lay ahead would decide the course of their lives, or death. But was she prepared to unearth the truth that had haunted generations? Jenna's breath caught in her throat as the ground beneath them shuddered. Shadows twisted and curled, sneering at her defiance. The laughs, sadistic and echoing from the depths of the forest, rampaged through her mind. They were toying with her, and the weight of their gaze pressed down, swirling with the frigid air that surrounded them. "Mia, hold on to me!" Jenna exclaimed, her voice a ragged whisper laced with desperation. She could feel the cold tendrils of the darkness inching closer, hungry for their warmth, aiming to pull Mia back into the void. There was a flicker of light from her daughter's eyes, a fleeting acknowledgement, yet Jenna saw it fading like the sun behind the horizon. The trees groaned, an ancient symphony of dread playing around them. Jenna struggled against the weight of the shadows, anchoring herself to the single light of purpose, her daughter. But something else clawed at her thoughts, a gnawing question. What had the bloodline meant? What dark legacy had she inherited? She sensed the shadows shifting, preparing for one final strike, when a sudden ripple passed through the air. With it came an almost tangible pulse of energy, the forest stilling in a moment of sickening calm. Awaiting, watching. Jenna knew she had to act quickly. "Mia, I need you to listen to me." She tightened her grip, feeling the lingering warmth radiate from her daughter. "I want you to think of your happy place. Think of anything that makes you feel safe. Can you do that?" Mia's face twisted in fear, her small body trembling. "Mommy, I can't." The shadows writhed, pulling at her, their laughter mingling with Mia's cries. Jenna felt her heart tearing in two. "Yes, you can. Fight them. Think of the park, the swings, the sun on your face." Jenna shouted passionately, as if her words could weave a protective barrier against the encroaching darkness. Another sinister voice erupted from within the murmur of shadows, cold and menacing. You think you can save her? The blood must flow, it hissed, horrible and low. Jenna felt it like ice pricking her skin. A nightmare from which she couldn't wake. Just then, the ground bucked violently, sending both Jenna and Mia tumbling backward. The shadows recoiled as Jenna positioned her body to shield Mia, instinct pressing at her heart. The earth groaned beneath them, and the trees seemed to howl in protest, branches thrashing wildly as if lunatic spirits were battling within. Mia! She shouted again, heart racing. The girl was fading, and Jenna could feel the darkness coiling around her own mind, creeping in with each breath. Then, in an adrenaline-fueled panic, she grasped the stories from her childhood, the ancient chants that her mother had whispered in secret. They echoed loud and eerie in her memory, details hazy but potent. Jenna's fingers tingled with a sudden sense of purpose, and she recited the words that had slipped through her mind like forgotten sugar cubes. Torment shall be ceased. Blood shall be bound. Light shall banish the darkness that calls. The shadows screeched and shrank back as if the incantation struck them. But with each word, Jenna felt something dangerous stirring inside her, awakening a dormant power. The room seemed to spin. She could see flashes of crimson in her mind, bloodlines intertwining with whispers that rang familiar unbreakable ties, twisted paths stretching into darkness. Mama! Mia cried, her voice weighed down by encroaching despair. In her daughter's eyes, Jenna could almost see the layers of horror that soaked through her tiny silhouette. She pulled Mia close, begging the thin threads of power to weave a shield around them. But as she shouted the final words, she realized too late that awakening those ancient ties came with a price. The shadow figures surged forward with renewed vigor, their laughter thundering as the ground split beneath them. The very sanctity of life clawed at the edges of Jenna's consciousness. The rift opened wider, threatening to consume them both. Just as the tendrils reached for Mia once more, everything went black, then Jenna woke. Breathless, heart pounding, but something was wrong. The forest stood silent. Mia! She gasped into the thick air, dread slamming against her chest as silence lingered too long. Where was her daughter? Her surroundings felt altered. Was she alone? As fear clawed at her insides, the shadows circled in again, a whisper, a taunt, chilling her to the bone. The bloodline must be renewed, it echoed in a sing-song voice that felt like a knife twisted in her heart. With each dizzying second, Jenna had to choose, confront the unseen or unravel secrets meant to stay buried. What had she awakened in Mia? What darkness awaited her? The shadows danced again, mocking her, a specter of horrors yet to come. Jenna's heart raced as she pushed herself up off the cold, damp ground. Panic settled like lead in her gut. The stillness around her felt unnatural, a facade draping a world teetering on the brink of chaos. Shadows lingered, brushing against the edges of her vision as if they were plotting her demise. Mia! She called again, her voice catching in her throat. No answer. Only the whisper of the wind through the trees, mocking her as it ghosted past her ears. She stood, her limbs trembling, the air thick and suffocating. Was this how she would pay for awakening whatever curse tethered her family to this cursed place? Slowly, she took a step forward. The ground squelched beneath her feet, mud clinging to her boots as if trying to drag her back down. Gritting her teeth, Jenna forced herself to move, knowing that standing still meant succumbing to the darkness. A flash of movement caught her attention, a fleeting silhouette darting through the corner of her eye. Her breath hitched. Mia! She whispered again, the tremor in her voice betraying her fear. In the distance, something rustled. Jenna froze, spine stiffening. Meanwhile, those wretched whispers coiled around her, seeping into her mind. The bloodline, the blood must flow. They taunted with twisted delight. She shook her head, hot tears blurring her vision. No! You can't have her. Desperately, she moved toward the sound, each step feeling like wading through molasses. Shadows pressed in, swirling with malevolent grace around her. Suddenly, she caught sight of a pale figure in the gloom. It was small, hunched over, and oh dear God, it was her daughter, Mia. Mia! Jenna screamed, the cry echoing through the thicket, but Mia stood still, her back to Jenna. The child was whispering to something, the sound sweet but wrong. Jenna's stomach twisted as the dark forest around them seemed to pulsate, thrumming with an evil rhythm. Mia, stop! Jenna rushed forward, her heart hammering, but as she extended a hand, Mia turned. Jenna stumbled to a halt. What she saw chilled her blood. Mia's eyes were wide, empty of light, face pale and drawn. Instead of the innocence she cherished, a shadow of something darker lingered behind her glance, something ancient and hungry. Mommy, she sighed, voice dripping with an unsettling calm. Mia. No, that's not you. Jenna pleaded, taking another step closer, desperate to reach her daughter. Come back to me. Mama, the shadows say the blood must flow. Mia's lips curled into a smile that didn't belong, revealing jagged teeth that glistened like sharp glass. Horror surged through Jenna, a frigid wave constricting her throat. A scream bubbled up, but the words dissolved into the night air. Mia, please. We need to leave. The shadows danced closer, wrapping themselves around Mia like a sickly embrace. Jenna felt the pull of despair tugging at her limbs. Without thinking, she leapt forward, grabbing Mia's arm, but instead of warmth, she felt ice. Mama, Mia whispered again, they say I can be stronger. We can be powerful together. No. This isn't you. Jenna's voice cracked with anguish. The trembling fingers of darkness clawed at her, vines of despair tightening around her, threatening to crush that eye. In that moment of desperation, Jenna recalled an instinct she had buried deep in ancient defense. With power coursing through her veins, she shouted, light shall banish the darkness. The words echoed like thunder in the night, waving through the branches overhead, and just like that, the shadows shrieked and recoiled, but something darker feasted on Jenna's fear. The ground shook, and with a sickening snap, the earth split beneath her. Jenna's eyes bulged as she fell, pulling Mia with her. Mommy! Mia shrieked, the terror in her voice sharper than ever. As they plummeted, Jenna gripped her daughter tighter, but it wasn't the darkness surrounding them that frightened her, it was what awaited them below. Would the shadows claim her child? Or would she finally uncover the truth about her bloodline? The darkness enveloped them, and as it did, she heard the laughter return, echoing in agonizing harmony. Strength from blood must be tested, it whispered, just before the void swallowed them whole. Jenna's world collapsed in darkness, the oppressive void swallowing her screams, leaving only silence in its wake. She felt a crushing weight, not just from the fall but from an unseen hand gripping at her heart. Time twisted in the blackness, uncertain and slippery. She held Mia tightly, the icy sensation of her daughter's hand sending chills through Jenna's core. Mia! She shouted, her voice breaking as desperation clawed at her throat. Can you hear me? No response. A heavy darkness clung to her skin, viscid like tar. Jenna shivered, the humidity stifling. The ground beneath them was hard, unlike the soft loam of the forest floor. Had they landed? Where were they now? Mia! She cried again, fear slicing through her resolve. She jerked her head around, trying to sense any movement. The stillness was an eerie echo of the forest above, an unsettling calm that suggested danger lurked just beyond her vision, and then she heard it, a faint sound at first, a scuttling noise, like something scraping against rock. Jenna turned in circles, peering into the darkness, her heart thudding against her ribs. The echoing laughter from before reverberated in her memory, a sinister promise of what might be lurking nearby. Mia, please answer me. Her voice trembled, revealing her terror. I need you. Finally, she felt movement beside her, a cold touch brushing her arm. Jenna recoiled instinctively, but it was Mia. The girl's face appeared in the gloom, features stark against the pitch-black surroundings. Mama, she said, her voice smooth and unchildlike, we fell into the shadows. They want to play a game. Jenna echoed, confusion flooding her. What kind of game? Mia smiled, a ghastly grin filled with sharp teeth. A game of trust and sacrifice. The shadows promise strength, but at a cost. A pit opened in Jenna's stomach. No. We don't need power like that. We need to get out of here. She made to take a step back, but thickening shadows coiled around her, dragging her deeper into their embrace. Mama, you're scared. The shadows can smell it. They want to feast on your fear. The ghastly grin widened, and something cold sparked in Mia's foggy gaze. No, Mia. Fight it. Jenna screamed, her voice raw. She tugged against the grip of the shadows. Shadows that felt eerily familiar, calling to her blood with each fleeting whisper, wrapping tighter and tighter around her soul. Mommy, Mia whispered, her voice low and threatening. They're not just shadows. They're family. You can join them. Panic surged through Jenna, coursing like electricity. No. This isn't you. Fight them, please. The shadows writhed, echoing her words mockingly, swirling like tendrils of smoke. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her, threatening to open once more. Mama. Mia let out a soft laugh that bounced around them. Why run from what you are? Embrace it. With every beat of Jenna's heart, she felt the inherited weight of her bloodline closing in, tightening like a noose. It screamed at her to surrender, to let go of the light she had clung to so desperately. But inside her, another instinct roared to life. A flicker of defiance ignited her core. No. Jenna shouted, summoning every ounce of will. You can't take her. Light shall banish the darkness. For the briefest second, the shadows screeched, recoiling as a pulse of warmth surged from within Jenna. It was a soft glow, like the first light of dawn breaking through a long night. But the shadows writhed angrily, shrieked in fury, and the laughter turned to a cacophony of rage. Mama! Mia's face twisted, a mix of rage and despair, a battle within her as she grappled with the darkness. Jenna's heart raced as the glow flickered in the face of overwhelming despair. Would it be enough to save her daughter? Would she lose everything to the shadows seeking to claim them both? As the glow started to fade, a thunderous roar shattered the silence, and the ground shook violently, threatening to swallow them whole. What would happen next? Would they emerge into the light, or be consumed by the darkness? The chilling laughter echoed loudly in her ears and suddenly everything went black. Jenna's senses flared awake in jarring confusion. The air felt thick, laced with the scent of damp earth and decay. Her breath echoed in her ears, quick and shallow, amplified by the stillness around her. Where was she? Mia. Her voice cut through the void, but no answer came. Only the oppressive silence wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. Tentatively, she reached out, fumbling in the darkness, feeling nothing but cold, unyielding ground beneath her. As her panic rose, Jenna's heart stumbled when she heard it again, the scuttling noise, now louder. Something was moving in the shadows, just beyond her reach. She dared to look. There was nothing to see, just the consuming blackness, but she felt the weight of unseen eyes boring into her. Mama Mia's voice, a distant whisper, floated through the darkness, chilling Jenna to her core. It sounded wrong. Hollow and twisted. Mama, come find me, Mia. Jenna screamed, the remnants of her earlier defiance crumbling under the weight of dread. Where are you? I'm coming. She pushed off the ground, her legs shaky as she took a few unsteady steps ahead. Each footfall echoed, swallowed by the dark. The laughter returned, this time sweet and sinister, mingling with the girl's voice. To play, you must choose, Mommy. Choose what? Jenna snapped back, pulsing anger bleeding into her fear. Choose to surrender to this nightmare. The laughter crescendoed like a deranged symphony. Shadows coiled around her legs, tugging at her as if trying to drag her down. An ember of determination flared within her. The need to protect her daughter fueled her resolve. She stumbled forward, pushing against the tendrils that gripped at her. I will not give in. Then you will lose her, the voice whispered, slithering along her spine, squeezing the words into her mind. You can't escape the darkness that lives in you, Jenna. It calls to you. No. She fought the shadows, pulling her feet free, dragging herself towards the sound of Mia's voice. Mia. A flicker of light ignited deep within her, a warmth she clung to as her world spiraled into despair. Suddenly, everything was still. Silence enveloped Jenna, wrapping around her like a shroud. Breathing heavily, she peered into the depths of the dark. A glimmer caught her eye, shimmering far beyond. Hope surged in her chest, perhaps it was an exit. Mama, don't. The voice of her daughter was now low and laden with shame, as if Mia had lost something essential. It wants you to go where the light is. It told me your love would be the sacrifice. Jenna's stomach nodded. Sacrifice? For what? She could feel the shadows twitching, agitated by her defiance. I will not let you take her. Stop. Mia's voice sobbed, trapped in a web of fear and darkness. You are the key. Remember, Mommy. Without warning, the ground beneath them trembled again, the tremors growing stronger, shaking the air from Jenna's lungs. She stumbled as the shadows roared, furious and hungry. They swirled around her, their grip tightening like a vice. Remember, Mia's voice faded, echoing in and out of the blackness. Find me, Mommy. A guttural roar erupted nearby, sending a shockwave through the earth. Shapes twisted and moved, clawing at the boundaries of Jenna's vision. It was no longer just the shadows. Something more vicious, more malevolent lurked in the depths, shrouded in the darkness. Jenna gritted her teeth and summoned every ounce of strength, heart pounding, that flicker of defiance refusing to die. But as the tremors intensified, pulling her toward the chasm of black, one question persisted in her mind: was she strong enough to save Mia, or would she succumb to the very shadows that threatened to consume them both? The answer hung tauntingly in the air, just as the disembodied laughter roared again, drowning her resolve. Would she uncover what lay lurking in the darkness, or was there no way out but through the shadows? In that moment, she realized the truth they had been hiding all along. Jenna's heart thundered as she stared into the void surrounding her. The darkness felt alive, pulsating with an energy that drained her resolve. As she fought to reclaim her daughter, a flicker of light glimmered within, sparking desperate hope. The whispers of the shadows twisted around her, their cacophony rising to a fevered pitch. Remember, Mia's voice echoed weakly, tugging at corners of Jenna's mind. You are the key. Jenna's vision blurred, her surroundings spinning. Memories flooded back, stories her mother told, ancient words filled with power, sacrifices that tethered them to the shadows. Those very shadows that now threatened to reclaim her daughter. Mia. She cried again, fighting against the swelling tide of despair. Hold on. Just then, a great roar shook the ground, and Jenna felt the shadows tighten their grip, dragging her toward the chasm of black. She stumbled, teetering on the brink, but deep inside, the flicker of light grew stronger, refusing to extinguish. Drawing upon that flicker, she shut her eyes and called out the words from her childhood whisperings, grounding herself in the essence of light. With love, I banish the dark. You shall not take what is mine. The shadows recoiled, screaming in fury as they lashed out. She could feel them thrashing, but the warmth within her surged to the surface. Light shall banish the darkness. She declared again, louder, her voice mingling with the ancient chants echoing in her heart. As if responding to her command, the darkness writhed and bucked, and for a moment, Jenna felt it loosen its grip. Instinctively, she lunged forward, her arms outstretched. Mia. The name burst from her lips, filled with desperate power. A shimmer outlined Mia in the dark. The little girl blinked, momentarily breaking from the shadows consuming her. Mommy. She cried, and in that singular moment, Jenna saw clarity in her daughter's eyes. Jenna pulled Mia toward her, the bond of love igniting a blinding brilliance that lit up the oppressive void. With a strength she didn't know she possessed, Jenna focused all her love and fierce, maternal instinct. The shadows splintered before her. You cannot take her. She is not yours. Blinding light erupted in their midst, illuminating the grotesque shapes surrounding them. The darkness hissed and retreated, but Jenna forged ahead, shielding Mia, wrapping her arms around her small frame. In this crucible of raw power, something inside Jenna snapped into place, bravery born of love. Mama, they're too strong. Mia sobbed, but Jenna's grip tightened. Together. We are stronger together. Jenna shouted. As they clasped hands, warmth rippled through them, a glowing shield springing to life, radiating an energy that pushed against the encroaching shadows. With a final rallying cry, Jenna unleashed the echoes of her ancestors, the incantations, the history of her family braided in pain and loss. The light erupted around them, bathing the dark in glorious brightness. Shadows shrieked as they disintegrated into ashes, their power diminished against the fierce love radiating from the two of them. The ground shook beneath them, then began to settle as the power of their bond grew. We will overcome. Jenna pressed, her voice ringing clear and true. Finally, as the light pushed through the last of the shadows, Jenna felt a rupture, their connection to the malevolent entity severing. It howled in outrage, but the darkness was no longer a threat. Emerging into a blinding brilliance, Jenna found herself back in the forest, the moonlight bright and hopeful. The somber woods were now painted in silvery hues, the air fresh and clean. She turned to Mia, eyes wide with surprise and wonder. We did it. Mia melted into her mother's embrace, tears shimmering in the moonlight. I was so scared, Mommy, she whispered, the shadows still lingering at the edges of her memory. We're safe now. Jenna cradled her daughter's face in her hands, warmth flooding her heart. They turned together, walking back towards the town, where flickers of light danced from windows. Cedar Grove felt alive again, a place washed clean. As they stepped further away from the curse that haunted their family, Jenna also felt the weight lift off her shoulders, her lineage no longer a burden to bear. Days passed, and the house stood empty, abandoned, whispers silenced forever. In Cedar Grove, a new chapter began, full of laughter. Jenna held her children close, grateful for the strength they discovered. And one evening, as shadows began to spill across the ground, Jenna felt a brief flicker of fear. But she remembered, they had faced the darkness and triumphed. Mommy? Ethan asked, pulling her from her thoughts. Yes, sweetie. Will the shadows ever come back? She knelt down, kissing their foreheads. Not if we stay together. We are the light now. And they were. As they stood on the porch, gazing into the horizon, Jenna understood one thing: together, they forged a legacy rooted in love. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the exclusive, heart-pounding stories we've lined up just for you. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our community strong. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this finale. Let us hear what you think, and wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans know how important it is to support our journey.